the first thing I'm going to do is activate the second oscillator. Now straight away, you can hear the difference there. Now the way to make that sound a little bit less thin is to detune one oscillator against another one using the detune control. So what I'm going to do is just nudge that one down by a few points and that one up by a few points. You can hear straight away, let me undo that. My first keyboard, something a bit thicker. What I might also do as well is change one of these oscillators to play me a square wave rather than two lots of sine wave. So that's the difference. What I might also need to do is just pitch it down a little bit to make it more of a bass sound. Now I could do this using the MIDI clip, but I'm being lazy, so I'm just going to use the octave control here. The right sort of register, so I just have to pitch it down 2 octaves. Next up, let's just go back to the Maxi Sound System track. So mine's a little bit bright at the moment. So what I need to do is add a filter. So I need to turn the filter on first of all. I'm going to use a low pass filter. Now I've got 2 choices of low pass filter. One is 12 dB per octave and one is 24 dB per octave. That number there just relates to the strength of the filter, how aggressively it's going to remove the higher frequencies. So the one with the higher number is going to more aggressively remove those higher frequencies, so that's the one I'm going to go for. Now if I just change that to a LP12, yeah, that's letting a little bit more of the higher frequency through at the same point in the filter. Just turn it up a little bit so we can hear it. Not exactly a function 1 in here. Now the most important part of this bass sound is applying an envelope to the filter to give the filter a little bit of motion so it's not just static. At the moment it's sort of very flat sounding, whereas what I want to do is to apply an envelope to the filter so the filter starts off slightly open and then closes like that. So what I need to do is click on the filter tab like that to bring up this set of controls in the middle. Now this bit here and these bits here relate to the filter envelope. And where it says frequency modulation, under where it says envelope, I'm going to turn that up a little bit. So that's too much, but you can start to hear, rather than it being a flat sound, it's going, you know, it's a bit of motion in it.
Pluck sound, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So let me now pull the frequency down a little bit. Then we're sort of starting to get there. You can start to hear how this sound comes about. Now you can either play with the filter envelope graphically here, or adjust these numerical values here, but you get the same result. So if I do something like this, so that's how you get your sort of drum and bass, dubstep, whap sounds if you put a bit of attack on the filter envelope. But to be perfectly honest, that was fairly that's about that. And that's about there. So you can see how far I've pulled the frequency back. It's sitting at 78 78 Hertz. So if I turn that frequency modulation off, you can hear that we're not, well, we're only hearing the lowest 78 Hertz of that sound. Because I've turned the envelope control up, you get that nice bit of motion in there. So let me just replace that with a blank analog. That's what we started out with. And that's what we've got now. Now what you might do, as with the drums, it's going to sound fairly wooden unless you sit that in some sort of reverb or maybe add a little bit of delay to it. So let me go audio effects, ping pong delay, just drag and drop that onto a return track. Because it's a send and return effect, I'm going to turn the dry wet control all the way around to wet. So I only want to hear delayed signal from that device, and then all I need to do is just to give it a little bit of context. Anybody, any questions on that little bit?
What was that you just opened up now, that little box?
This little bit here, right. What I've done is added a bit of delay as a send and return effect to the analog synthesizer. So, on the mixer controls here, S and R, send and return. I've dragged and dropped this thing called ping pong delay over onto one of these return tracks. Now the return tracks themselves don't ever contain any clips. All we use these tracks for is to process signals that we might send over.
Are they always there?
They're always there, they're just hiding in the background. You get 2 by default, although if you want to make more you can do just by right clicking. Where are we? Insert return
How
track.
did you get them up? On press the tab? Or was it?
It's this button here, S and R.
Oh, right, yeah.
Generally, when you're mixing down a piece of music, you would place reverbs and delays on return tracks, and then send, you know, differing amounts of whichever instrument you want to affect over to those tracks. Yeah, so if we've got time at the end, we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. So that is designing a bass sound from scratch. Next up, the vocal bit. So this is the bit that I'm referring to. The main sort of vocal bit. It's obviously originally a female vocalist, but it's been sort of pitched down and made to sound a little bit more masculine. Now to do this, unfortunately, you need to buy yourself something like Antera's Auto-Tune, as well as doing that amazing Cher T-Pain overused effect. You can also do other things like this with it. So, here's one I made earlier, but I'm just going to show you how I've come about this. First of all, you need to find yourself a usable piece of vocal. So, we've got some amazing vocal samples here, all of which are ripe for the picking.
I'll be good to you.
There's loads like that.
I'll be good
Awful.
to I believe it.
But I came across that one and I thought that's a suitable candidate. So, I'm just going to make myself a new audio track.
Sorry, what sample pack is that?
That is, I can't remember what it's called now, New Disco something or other. Let's have a look. Spin Media, New Disco House Edition. There's some great stuff in that. Loads of drum loops, loads of percussion loops, loads of, you know, really obvious but brilliant piano lines, all that sort of stuff, and all those disco-y vocals.
What's it? Spin Media what?
Spin Media, and it's Spin with a number 5. It's a New Disco House Edition. Since you're asking, let me just play you a couple of choice cuts from that. Brilliant. All that sort of stuff. Right, completely forgot it now. Where were we? Oh, vocals, that's it. So there. So I'm going to get that, I'm going to drag and drop it in. Next up, I'm going to get my, unfortunately, third-party plugin, Antera's Auto Tune. I'm going to drop that onto that. So it's an absolutely brilliant plugin, this. You can use it for a number of different bits and pieces. Transparent vocal tuning. If your singer is ever so slightly out, you can use it to transparently tune their vocal. You can use it to obviously tune vocals, like I say, the Cher T-Pain effect.
How much does this cost?
Oh, it's not that much.
Get it off
I think it's less than £100. I wouldn't condone it, but if you're that way inclined, there's ways and means. The bit of the device that I'm going to use, it's in the region of about 70 quid, something like that. It's not too much. The bit of the device that I'm going to use is this bit here, transpose. So that is a hard pitch shift up or down. And I'm also going to use this thing called throat length, with this control next to it called formant. So, let me just solo that. In fact, I'll play my bass line along with it. Which one was it? Was it that one? No, it wasn't that one. It was that one there. So we'll solo that, and we'll solo. We'll solo that. So it's a bit high at the moment. Still too high. Let's go. Yeah, that's about right. The only problem with the device is you can't tune it in cents. It's full semitones. It's not the end of the world. But the way to get that sounding much more masculine is to affect the thing called the formant. Basically, the formant is the length of the throat, and female throats have a shorter, well, length basically, and male voice boxes are longer. So, to make it sound more masculine, you can turn the formant control on and you can make the throat length longer. And you start to get that sort of transsexual sound, if you will. So that's how you can get those special vocal effects. I'm sure if you get yourself a copy of Native Instruments The Voice, I'm sure you'll be able to do that using that. Can you do that? Yeah, and that I know is about, it's about €70. Yeah. They're all about the same price.
Half price this weekend.
Half price this weekend?
Black Friday.
Has anyone seen the video to that? The intro to The Voice? Yeah, it's quality. The other reason that you would want to use the formant control, again, is for a more natural sounding pitch shift. If I leave that as 100, let me just turn that off in fact. What this will sound like is, if I pitch that down too, it will very much sound like a hard pitch shift. It won't sound that natural. If I activate the formant control and leave the throat length as it is, it'll be like that singer is singing it, but just 2 semitones down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's listen to the difference. That's a hard pitch shift without the throat length staying the same. You hear how it's subtly different. It sounds like she's just singing the same thing 2 octaves down. 2 octaves down, 2 semitones. So that's natural sounding. This is unnatural sounding. Subtle. So, in a nutshell, pitch it to get it so that it fits with your bass line, or pitch your bass line to fit in with the vocal, and then to make it sound more masculine, lengthen the throat. That's how you would do that, and that's how you get your... You can also do it with Melodyne, I think. You can do it with Melodyne as well if you've heard of Melodyne.
Do they have the form and everything?
Yeah, you've got the ability to be able to change the form and add vibrato, stuff like that.
Can you do that with your Ableton, just without the third party?
No.
No.
Do you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say you maybe can, but I haven't found a way to do it yet, and that's maybe me being lazy. I don't know, you might be able to emulate something like that with a frequency shifter or something like that, but never say never. I'm not going to say no, just in case I get told off. Next on the list, let's look at a bit of music theory. Really simple music theory. So the bass line is 2 notes, occasionally 1 extra one, but for the main part it's 2 notes. This synth that's coming in, 2 notes essentially. Right, so let's take the music behind that, pick it apart. Starting with, let's start with the bass line. Shut the vocal up for a minute. Two notes. This one here, I'm going to call the root note. In fact, let's start writing a bass pattern from scratch. That is the root note. It just so happens that is a G sharp. I'm going to turn record quantization on, I'm lazy. And I'll just play that note and then pitch it down. So that is my root note. Just so happens it's a G sharp. When I'm trying to come up with bass lines, or lead lines for that matter, the first thing I'll do is just play in one note, and that is my root note. Just any note on the keyboard, it doesn't matter which one. And then thereafter I can start to worry about the musicality of it. But initially I'm just going to play in a rhythm. And for argument's sake, let's make this 2 bars long, this clip. This is the new overdub button here, and when that button's activated, you can also record in session view automation. That's how that works. You see the launch button's green at the moment, which indicates that it's not going to do anything until I turn that button on. Now the launch button's red. Now the only problem with it is, if you forget to turn it off, then it does stuff like that. It records anything like that, so just need to go into that envelope.
Is there not a shortcut command to turn it on and off?
I'm sure there is, but I haven't found it yet. I'm just going to open the filter a little bit just so we can hear that bass a little better. In fact, let's just, for argument's sake, I'm just going to add a loop to that, those drums that I've already got, just to make it a bit more interesting. So, drum loops, hi-hat, let's listen to it. That'll do. Just be nice and... Right, so I've played in a rhythm. Let's start worrying about the musicality of it now. Now, take any note on the keyboard. That is your root note. Just so happens it's G sharp 2 in this case. Pitch it up 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3, like that. And you get what's called a minor third. So what I'm going to do is go through and change some of these notes that I played in to a minor third. And that involves just going through, moving it up 3 semitones. Just doing this at random for the time being. That is the minor third. How many times have you heard that musical interval in electronic music especially? The next interval, take your root note, go 2 down from that, and you've got what's called a minor 7th. Like that. Let's have a listen to that. It's that little bit more complex. 3 up, minor third, 2 down from the root, that's a minor 7th.
So that's all in the same key scale then?
That is, it's a what we're using here is a minor scale, but I'm trying to sort of just separate out and just think of it in intervals.
Oh, so if it was major and you went up 3 and down 2, it would still be major?
No, that's a minor scale. To make it major, you would go up 4 and down 3.
Okay.
Avoiding
Challenge
the black
Down
notes.
1.
Yeah, avoiding the black notes basically. If you're starting on C for argument's sake, if you avoid the black notes and just play C to C, that's a major scale. And there, my music theory knowledge ceases. But remember, the keyboard is a repeating pattern of notes. It's not just one octave, C to C. You've got all the way down from C minus 2 all the way up to C 8 and a bit. So what you can do is take some of those notes. Let me just expand note editor. Let's get rid of the envelopes bit so we've got a bit more screen space. Take some of these root notes, move them up 12, that's an octave. This is what an octave sounds like. It's a bit too low. You can certainly move them up an octave. This time, rather than moving notes that I've already got, I'm going to use the pencil tool to just position some extra notes. So all you've got to do, if you're not sure which one G sharp 2 is just, G sharp, just hover over the note and it tells you what note it is. So G sharp 2 there, so if I go up to G sharp 3, then that note is also going to work, that's the octave. I'm going to press B to go into draw mode, am I? Are you going to let me? No.
Command B.
It used to be Command B, but
Oh.
I'm sure it changed. Yeah, B. Why is that not working? Oh well. You can just right click and pick draw mode. The pencil is now over there if you want to select it. Strange. It's the beta version, I'm sure we'll sort it out. Anyway, so G sharp 3. Just put the odd cheeky octave note in there. Something like that. But now you've also got the option of going 3 up and 2 down from that position as well. So we just come out of draw mode. So 2 down from that is going to be a minor 7th. And 3 up from that is going to be a minor 3rd, just the octave up. So maybe a little bit messy, so we'll just resize that note. Altogether more melodically complex. And that's when you can start to, you know, play around with a bit of modulation to take that synth on a bit of a journey. Right, I'm going to try something slightly different with this. Again, another one of Live 9's new little MIDI tweaks is the ability to be able to reverse that clip and also invert it as well.
You can still do that in a select the
well, it's a
right
very
click
simple,
twice,
it
so
just makes it a bit more
yeah.
simpler with that button that just says reverse. I'm lazy, So that is my bass line that I've just written. Let me reverse that and fingers crossed. You've got, you know, maybe the B section of your tune just like that. This one might not work because we'll be changing the pitch of the notes, but you can also invert. It sort of works. Sorry.
So it's just flipping upside down.
Yeah, just flipping upside down around like the central point. Just while we're on the subject of these MIDI tweaks, we've gone over reverse, invert, duplicate, loop. You've also got the option of this legato button, and what that will do is it'll buffer all the notes up to one another. So it'll change the note length so they're all buffered up to one another.
Okay. So they're not overlap as well, no?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. Obviously that depends on the envelope, the amp envelope that you've selected for your notes. If you've got quite if your sustain is set all the way down and you've got a short decay time, then that isn't going to matter that you've buffered those notes, so it won't have any effect. So that's a little bit of music theory. Remember, any note, up 3, minor 3rd, down 2, minor 7, jobs are good. You rarely find electronic music or electronic dance music written in a major key.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Doesn't work.
It's predominantly for kids' toys.
Exactly. Yeah. Children's television and yeah, children's toys. Oh God, I've got enough of those in the house. Anyway, I've got a child, by the way. I've, you know. Anybody? Any questions on that? Or does that sort of make
I've got
sense?
one about analog.
Yeah.
Is there any way to make it velocity sensitive?
Yes.
I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
there is.
Well, I don't know, I've looked.
Is this
There's
also available?
certain parameters are velocity sensitive, like the attack and stuff like that, but not the actual velocity itself. Right.
Level modulation.
Yeah, see. It's not there.
Is that not it?
No,
is
that's by key, isn't it? It's not by velocity.
Of course, yeah.
I've been all through it and I couldn't find it. I mean, it might just be style.
There you go. Envelope to velocity. That's a very good point.
That's like still ratio,
Velocity.
the envelope, isn't it? Attack to velocity.
Level modulation. Right, I'm going to come back to that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've never thought about that before. It's a very good point. Oh, it's going to perplex me. Right.
Just out of interest, what would that affect anyway?
If you are.
The
you are
velocity, how hard you hit a key on the keyboard to give you the different volumes. Obviously, the harder you hit the key, the louder the volume you'll hear back from the instrument. The softer you hit the key, the quieter. That's what we're trying to achieve. But yeah, it's just something that I never thought of before.
So there's no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it in operator.
But yeah, I suppose it's modelled on old
exactly,
analog
yeah, make
synthesizers
everything
which
work like that.
weren't velocity sensitive anyway.
Although certain parameters are, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, such is the beauty of it, the limitations, you know.
Yeah.
Next up, let's have a look.